Hello, welcome back to New Comic Book Day Book Club, your respite from the world.
Welcome back.
How's it going, John?
I'm unboxing something that I know No Good Comics in the chat's going to be pumped on.
So let's say hi to the chat. Old Wolf, front row seats. Is that the new tailgating? If you get here first, you got front row.
Hot dog front row. There you go.
I love hot dogs, which are a sandwich, by the way.
That is Charlie's favorite food.
Yeah, mine too.
You guys are kindred that way, I think.
I know. I also love pizza and French fries. Magic Lasso, what is up? Thanks for stopping by. John beat me to it, but No Good Comics. Hello, hello. And just a bunch of good chatting going on in the chat so far. And there it is. Let me embiggen you.
Volume 3.
Just funny because I remember when you bought the first one, you're like, I don't think I'm going to buy any more of these.
No, I said I don't think I'll buy other Omnis, but I knew I was going to be buying Volume
I misunderstood.
2.
I see.
I got Volume 2 right before Christmas. Now I didn't realize this one was so hot on the heels, but look, Mohawk Storm right there.
Your favorite. What issues does that cover?
So this is 154 through 175 plus. TJ will love it. Has God Loves Man Kills.
Nice.
It's got the Wolverine Frank Miller miniseries.
Oh, nice.
And it's got the Storm and Ilyana Magic miniseries.
Omnis are John's other textbooks as Magic Lasso.
I'm down. It's cool because I can see right where God Loves Man Kills is, because if you look, there's like this dark section because all the borders are dark. So
black, yeah.
So I want to skip right to that one.
You should put some brown paper wrapping around those and draw anarchy symbols on them like I did in junior high school.
I remember doing that with our textbooks, right? Yeah. Fold the page. There was like people were really good at like folding and taping those.
Oh yeah, make them look nice.
Right.
Speaking of looking nice, we got some nice looking books to talk about tonight. The main book that we scheduled to be talking about this evening is the new Wonder Woman Future State. I got the Adam Hughes cover. Even though everyone hates Wonder Woman 84, I can't say no to Adam Hughes.
And for me, I loved the Jenny Frison and everything, but it was like it's written and drawn by Joelle Jones.
Yeah.
I want her cover.
And I thought about getting that one too, just because like it's the future state look to it.
Right.
Which is kind of a cool thing to do. Bearded Comic Bro, thanks for stopping by. We're also going to be touching on Crossover 3 just because we did the first two, so we figured why not pop in there. And then I have a couple things to say about Future State, the next Batman.
Boom.
We'll get to it.
Fire those shots.
So first thing first, Wonder Woman Future State. Joelle Jones.
Yeah.
Do you want to give your rating first, or should we?
Yeah, I can go right. I mean, so I said on the other show, I think I said 8.5 would probably be my rating, but for me, it's going to depend on if it's only 2 issues. I've only read half the story. I want to know the other half.
Yeah.
But I knew I was not going to be disappointed by the art, and of course I am not in any way. So I like the story enough to be right there on the border of a 9, but it could easily, if the second issue is as good as this one, I could easily call this as like a 9 across the board for me.
Yeah, for me, without a doubt, art blows it out of the water. 9.5 easy for the art. Especially for me, especially because it is only 2 issues. The story didn't cut it for me because I feel like I didn't, like, on one hand, I didn't get enough for me to feel like this is going to wrap up in an impactful way in another issue. But at the same time, I was like thrown into this future world without really giving much context. So it kind of like missed the mark on both ends for me. So overall, it was like a 7.5 for me.
Too much, not enough.
Gore Vidal, thanks for stopping by. Sold out at his local shop. The others weren't moving, save for crossover, despite Kate's height. Wonder Woman was the only book I picked up. And Noga Comics said it felt a bit short. Yeah. I expected, these are kind of, a lot of people are kind of comparing these to Elseworlds and stuff like that. And I felt like that's what I expected it to be this like really condensed, but kind of thick story. And it didn't really do that for me. Would you like to give a recap of the story?
Yeah, so I mean the story focuses on Yara, and she is a Brazilian-born, apparently Amazon, and she at the beginning of the story is battling a Hydra, and with the assistance of her pretty badass sword and her flying horse, she what's that? A Pegasus, yeah. She defeats.
Who's not very cooperative.
Yeah, Jerry doesn't listen all that well.
Jerry the Pegasus, not very. No.
She defeats the Pegasus because, as she is mutilating the corpse, she says she needs one of its teeth because she wants to take that tusk to the underworld where she's planning to face down against Hades and get a sort of sister warrior freed from hell.
Yeah.
And she was going to use the tooth as a bargaining chip to threaten Hades, and if not getting what she wants, she was going to stab him.
So can I pause right there for 1 second?
Yeah.
So that was kind of like my first big qualm with the story, is that you had all this narration leading up to that point.
Yeah.
And that was the first point. And like, I'm fine with things, you know me, I don't need exposition. I'm fine with things coming about naturally through real sounding conversations, but why in the narration didn't you highlight what was happening to give you some of the backstory about why she was doing any of this? Because at that point I was like, oh, so this is what the story is? Because I didn't get that from the first few pages.
Yeah, because she doesn't explain why she's fighting the Hydra at all until, is it Kaipora, the little sprite, I guess, kind of a character.
It was very fun. Really cute little design.
Yeah, let's see if there's a good close-up of. I mean, this is her floating there.
Yeah, it was a cool panel.
Sorry,
riding a little warthog.
Yeah, the big anime eyes. She arrives and says, "I can't let you mutilate that. You've killed it in my portion of the land."
Basically, saying no poaching.
Yeah,
that's the term she used.
And that's when Yara gives this backstory. I kind of liked that setup in the sense that I liked that they threw her right into some action, and she didn't bother explaining what's going on to us until prompted. That didn't bug me so much, and it did seem a little more natural once another character who could speak showed up. That's when it would come around.
I guess. Like I said, normally I would be all about that. I think the reason why it bugged me is because I felt like the narration wasn't adding anything to the story.
And that's one of my big grouches was there's a ton of narration, which is just kind of like supposed to be playful and kind of, I don't know, fun and funny, but comes off a little flat for me. If they had cut the narration, I would have been a lot happier.
I agree. If they had cut the narration, I wouldn't have had a problem with that being the reveal of what she's doing.
Right.
But because she was telling this story with narration as the real-time story was happening, I kind of expected there to be more about what the story was.
Right. So for me, the narration was a bit of an irksome, clunky, it seemed like addition almost. Versus the dialogue where I thought it flowed a little bit better. And then Yara has her argument with the sprite, the pixie, whatever.
Right after she threatens Yara, she quickly ties her up and kind of shows her prowess in the physical capability.
Which she doesn't really have a lasso. She's got and I can't remember the name of the
bolos.
The bolos, yeah. So she's got a golden bolo, and she wraps the girl up and threatens her, and then they make a deal that she won't take the tooth unless I can't remember her name, Kaipora takes her to the underworld, escorts her so that she gets there without needing the tooth so much. And then that leads to the rest of the story, which is really the two of them sauntering through the realms to the ferryman who's going to take them to the other world.
TJ is in the chat saying, I had an epiphany. The show is so good because it follows the last. Got two questions. One, I thought we did a pretty good job tonight. I thought we had some actual conversations and only made a few inappropriate jokes. And two, are you saying that this show wasn't good before we started doing the other show? I mean, you're probably right. I'm just curious. But it's nice to see you, TJ. So yeah, for me, this is where the story got more amusing.
Yes.
And I wish they had almost pushed it more towards the humor side of it, because I think that's where it was, the strength of it was.
Because this sequence, I will say, all the stuff that's in between worlds or realms or however you want to describe it, has a fun Tim Burton light,
whimsical
quality, right? It like the look of things, like they have to go through security checkpoint, and the little demon guy who runs the
so cute
security checkpoint is hilarious, and I love it. The look of it. It felt like the Beetlejuice afterlife lounge or whatever.
And I also really liked when
sleeping three-headed dog.
When the little fairy girl is having the conversation with the demon's all his dialogue is in like demon text.
Yeah.
But you still, because of the way Joelle Jones wrote the responses, you know exactly what the conversation was.
Very funny.
And that, I think for me, like that was the best section of this.
Totally. Those like 4 to 6 pages were hilarious. And I'm a big fan of the mythology that they're playing with here. I will say, like the ferryman concept of the coins and the way she draws and captures all of that, I really dig it. I don't necessarily like the whole samurai steal the coin thing. I don't know that I needed that.
He was a sumo wrestler.
Sorry, sumo wrestler. But I love the iconography that she's playing with here, and the look of the ferryman who like spreads across the like jumps out of the panel.
Very cool.
I dig
top notch.
All of that stuff. I really, really dig. And then of course it ends when she starts, busting chops in the queue to get into the ferry boat to the underworld, and wakes the three-headed dog.
Yeah.
Sarah Britt, right?
Yeah. So again, well, let me say this first. I thought it was kind of like a not very moral thing for her as a superhero and protector of people to basically strand this poor sumo wrestler by stealing his coins, because now he's just going to be in purgatory forever.
Yeah. I would have liked that. I mean, you could have easily used those pages where she's trying to come up with a strategy to get across, get a coin, to have a more interesting. So yeah, my 2 complaints and the 2 things that kept this out of the 9s for me, the narration at the beginning and the stuff with the sumo wrestler. Like those 2 elements were just a little cloying and a little flat for me.
Yeah. And the whole thing with the sumo wrestler, especially because, like we were saying, this is 2 issues long, and you waste that many pages making a joke about trying to steal a coin and waking up the Cerberus, who, again, there's only one more issue of this. She has to then defeat that creature, sail across, find Hades, confront Hades, fight Hades, get her sister back. Yeah. It's like this might have been a cool setup for a 6 to 8 issue arc, but it just feels super ambitious to get this done in one more issue and have it be anything that is
not rushed,
not fulfilling. It's like, again, if it went hard into the comedy angle, I can forgive the plot being a little thin.
Right. So, I mean, I guess that's like most of it right there. I was curious what your thoughts were on Yara as a character, like her personality. I thought that was because that was what I was thinking about the most while I was reading this, was kind of how her personality relates to Diana or Wonder Girl, the like the one who's in Deceased more.
Yeah. A couple more people jumped in the chat. Mortal Biggie Shack, what's up? Comic Man Andy, Sleepy Reader 666. Herminio Reyes Jr., what's up, buddy? No Good Comics says issue 2, 180 pages. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I didn't really get a sense of her personality. Like, I know it's kind of displayed, but I couldn't really say, I couldn't really describe her very well. And again, I think if they had concentrated more on, I think she could have had more interaction with the Pegasus, because I felt like that set up really well for something that just wasn't paid off that well.
They didn't end up using it because she's not allowed to take the Pegasus to the underworld.
Right. It could have been like a really fun Disney sidekick adventure where the horse is really sassy and
how to sneak it into the underworld. Or
right.
Whatever. Right.
So it kind of just like rode the line for not being exciting and not being humorous enough to be a comedy. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I do agree. The tone was a little, but I think for me, it was connected to the stuff with the sumo guy and the stuff with the narration at the beginning, which for me, she comes off as a lot more immature than Diana. I think she's very like playful, sure, but almost like
impulsive,
yeah, aggressive, right? And I like that. It's not a dig. That was some of the things I took away from the way she responds to things.
She was definitely
action.
She was definitely distinctive from the other Wonder Women or girls. So we mentioned quite a few times now about how much we enjoyed the art. And for me, I think Joelle Jones is in the top echelon of artists working today. And I was curious what other people thought. So I put a poll on my Instagram this morning to see that just said, hey, who do you think who is the top artist working in comics today, to see if anyone would mention her. And I took all the results, which didn't take me very long because I got 0 responses. So,
do you want to see all the ones I got? Let's see how many I got. I got a bunch.
Oh, well, you're much more popular than I am.
I use Instagram a lot more.
That's very true.
So let's see what we got. We got Kachung picked Isad Ribic.
Yeah, I mean, not wrong.
Comic Geek McD mentioned Dexter Soy, who I don't know.
Not me either.
Let's see. The Noob 50. Oh, that's Simple Simon said Clayman and Joelle Jones. I will say I might have rigged mine more because I used our thumbnail, which had a picture of Wonder Woman on it.
I did have 65 people see it, so it's not like nobody saw it.
Will the Beast said Dan Mora. Alex Reads Comics, my man, said Stephanie Hans, Bill Sienkiewicz, and Gary Frank.
Mm-hmm.
D. Piercy said Eric Powell. So good. Borinkin mentioned Ryan Stegman, who would probably make my list of interior artists.
Yeah, I mean, like on paper, no pun intended, he would be up there, but he's just like stylistically, I don't really like his stuff as much as other people.
Sure. Bearded says, I didn't see either of your polls, so don't let John gloat over you. There you go.
I mean, it's fine. I know. It's cool. It's no secret to me that John is much more approachable than I am. It's kind of my whole thing, my whole shtick is that like I'm a jerk.
No Goods in the chat. He mentioned the Dodsons.
Yeah, can't go wrong there.
Several people mentioned Marco Cicchetto. Vinny mentioned Mike Cicchetto. Jorge Jimenez came up for The Boy Who Had Seven. Liam Sharp came up for Varangian Vigilante. JP mentioned Jorge Jimenez as well. Hillbilly Comics said Marco Cicchetto. Off-White Tim said Nick Klein. And Shout out to Perry Comics for mentioning Riccardo Federici, who definitely would make my list.
It's really interesting to see just like how many different answers you get for something like that. Like obviously people's tastes are different, but
I only think 2 artists came up twice. I think it was Chichetto and I've already forgotten. I gave up.
But I remember, back in the day, like Wizard Magazine, they would every month would have the top 10 writers and artists, and I just wonder who would make those lists nowadays. I mean, I'm sure Donny Cates probably be up there for writers, but
for writers, yeah.
Just because, like, I feel like Wizard like always had the same 10 people pretty much every month.
For sure, all the image guys.
Yeah. Beard might have said Fabok. Yeah, I mean he's great. For me, what the hell? Oh my God, my brain after today is so broken.
So obviously Federici would be high on my list. Joelle would be high on my list. Stephanie Hans. I mean, I know she does. It's hard because I feel like the people I like the most produce the least because they spend so much time on their art. They need breaks just to produce the 5 issues of Die. Stephanie Hans takes a big break in between. So they're not producing as much as, say, cover artists or whatever who seem to be everywhere.
Well, I mean, cover is way easier to finish than a full issue of 22 pages of art.
Telling the truth.
Anyway, I can't remember anything right now. I just thought I was just curious what other people thought without kind of leading them to the water to see if anyone would mention her.
Do you want to talk while we're on Future State? You want to mention a little of your Batman rant?
Yeah. So first of all, for those of you who aren't aware, the Batman book was $9 for the cover B. I'm sure it was probably $7.99 for cover A because it's not on cardstock. But it's a big thick boy, and if you had watched John's video like I totally did, he told you that it was not going to be the full issue. It's just Batman, which it's not. I would say a third of it is Batman, and then 2/3 of it is an outsider story done by a completely different creative team. It doesn't say that anywhere on the cover, by the way. At least on this cover. It might have said it on the A cover, but I don't think so.
It just lists, I think the A cover lists the writers. So you'd see like 3 writer names and be like, okay, wow, there's 3 people to write this book.
Yeah. The Batman story, first of all, I found it very interesting that they, from my impression, took a lot of inspiration artistically from year 1. Which I thought was kind of interesting because this is like the future Batman and this is like the first story of his, and like in the coloring of it and the inking of it, just kind of reminded me of that a little bit. The scenes as the character, as Batman, dealing with the city and how the city has kind of, they have this shoot on first sight order for anyone wearing a mask. They're just allowed, there's like a SWAT team that basically can just kill anyone wearing a mask in public because it's gotten so out of control. So Batman is dealing with that. And I thought that was all very interesting. Him trying to still save people while wearing a mask and against this task force that is also trying to kill him. All the stuff with Luke Fox as himself dealing with his personal life, snooze fest. Just, again, like if you're just making these a couple issues, even if this story is 4 issues long, like, why are you wasting time building up this character's interaction with his family? Right. I mean, I'm sure it must come into play somehow, but like, I just want to see a cool story about an Elseworlds Batman dealing with Elseworlds problems. So,
and I will say that was a big turnoff to Future State for me in general, and I kind of felt like it came up a bunch when I was doing that video. Was me saying it's an anthology. I don't want 3 Superman stories or whatever. I think the Man of Tomorrow, which is next week's book, is a Jonathan Kent story, a Guardian story, and a Mr. Miracle story. So you're paying $10 and a third of it is guaranteed to be some guy named Guardian that I have never heard of before. But he's a character that's like in the DC universe. So I like that.
Breaking Comics, what's up? Yeah, it should have been all Batman. I would have been happy with the price. Absolutely. When I picked it up, I said, "Ooh, this is great, cool, big Batman story." So yeah, I mean, and honestly, when I started reading the first few pages, which started out as Batman, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be cool. I'm totally into this." And then it really shut the bed for me.
Well, and I think too, a lot of people felt like they had planned, at least I had planned, that these books would all be 2 issues. So that, the most that you'd be out is the cost of 2 issues. But come to find out, a few of them are 4 issues. And if they're going to be 4 anthology issues, what a crappy deal. As Lasso says, it's a bat and switch. Lies to what you did there. So yeah, I get the frustration completely. And again, you have a weird rotating cadre of writers, because you won't even get the same writers necessarily month to month or whatever. You might get a mini story in one, and then that mini story is like it appears in 2 issues down the road, and they have another mini story that starts in between. So there's a ton of these like weird anthology decisions. And that Mr. Miracle story I mentioned that starts in Man of Tomorrow ends in a different comic book.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's just badly laid out.
I'll be honest, I did not read the Outsider story because they just don't interest me. But I flipped through it, just curious, because if it had still related in some way, if Batman was still in it, I might have, but like I didn't see him at all. So it's just like totally a non sequitur as far as I'm aware. I'll go back and try to read a bit of it to see if I'm wrong, but
it's in a book called The Next Batman, which is interesting. And the same with the Superman one bugged me even more almost, because it was like, at least the Outsiders is like within the Gotham universe. Mr. Miracle is in the Superman book.
Yeah.
So like I'm a Jonathan Kent fan or a Superman fan, and I'm enjoying that story. And then I get a Guardian story, which again, I still don't know who that character is. And then I get a Mr. Miracle story. Like why would some people be interested in that?
I don't know. I mean, DC has made mistake after mistake in the last year. And so, I mean, these are only 2 Future State books I picked up, and neither one of them really like sold it to me like they should have. These should have been all 10 out of 10s.
Well, I will say it's possible that that my attitude in general was these are going to suck. So I went into all of these things thinking I don't want to read any of this. So to find a few that I'm like, hey, I kind of half enjoyed this. And, Joel Jones drew the shit out of this. And damn, if she's not just the sexiest thing around. This, I'm talking about Wonder Woman, not Joel. I mean, yes. I would presume to say. But I mean, I thought she nailed the art so much. I was just like, I could read a ton of issues of this. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, but she could, write and draw Catwoman, and I'd be just as happy. Like
I did. I was.
Right. Anyway, let's move over to crossover. Crossover number 3.
I will say, and I know that sometimes I have these weird holes in my knowledge of comics, these gaps.
Yeah.
I still can't remember the name of the reveal guy at the end of this book.
It made me so excited.
Did it? Okay, good. Because I got to the end and I was like, oh, it's that guy. I can't remember his name, though.
His name is Madman, a.k.a. Frank Einstein.
Okay.
Mike Allred's largest...
I remember the Mike Allred art for it. And I'd never read an issue. So I was like, okay, I know who it is, I guess, but...
So yeah, like, okay, let's talk about the plot briefly.
Sure.
Sorry for spoiling the end of crossover for anyone who's watching, but
if you watched the last show, then you already saw
that we we spoil everything on this show. So it starts with kind of a Watchmen reference to the giant squid. And then they're trying to make up the girl to cover up her kind of newsprint. And successfully so, to try to smuggle her back to where she can be reunited with the other comic people.
The
Dome, which is also revealed, which we assumed previously, that the dome was put up by the superheroes to protect them from the people of Earth, not the other way around. Because terrible humans were just bombing the shit out of them.
Right.
No surprise.
I do like the reference to Watchmen and how at the core of Watchmen is this like somewhat flawed idea that that humans would band together in times of crises.
Look how COVID, for example, see how well we're helping each other out with that.
Right. So I do like the way he pokes fun at that bubble a little bit. And that came off really well for me. I love anytime you bring up the squid from the Watchmen, I'm in. I need more of that.
This was definitely my favorite issue of this book so far.
I liked issue 2, I think, a little bit better, but I did have a lot of fun in this. I was really genuinely hoping for Doctor Strange. And so maybe it's just my expectation that like they'll somehow bring this together, but I should really by now know that they're never going to have those characters outright appear. So,
yeah. So we cut to a scene with the priest that we had seen in the first issue, kind of beating up his son, who he made him throw the Molotov cocktail in the first issue.
It sounds like he did it without Dad's requesting it. I don't know.
The cocktail?
Yeah. Dad seems really mad at him for getting caught and for doing it.
I got the impression that he was...
he's scared that his son ratted them out.
Right. I think he is kind of more mad about the fact that his son got released and won't tell him why. Because he handed them the thing in the first issue, didn't he?
I don't remember that, but that's my bad. I got the one. I looked at the covers that my LCS had of this, Greg, and I went with the one that had my 90s image Shadowhawk on the cover. Because I have that embossed cover, of course.
What were the other options?
I don't even remember now. This was the main cover, I think, the one with the Shadowhawk.
Yeah.
I just
bought cover A, so
memories.
Nothing fun for me. Anyway, the son then pulls a gun out from underneath his bed and kind of goes to his father's door, to his bedroom, with the intention of going to shoot him, it seems like. And he kind of says a little prayer to God, and there's like a huge crack of thunder outside, which kind of snaps him out of it, and he just runs away from home instead. Right?
Because the gun and the bullet he got in the second issue,
right,
with the purpose from the government of eliminating a superpowered threat.
Right. And it appears to be a kryptonite bullet.
By all intents and purposes, yeah.
Then we cut back to our main protagonists in the car, in the rain, waiting in a police checkpoint, who are presumably looking for this missing girl, who they have in their back seat.
Yeah.
Disguised, but still there. And they see the priest's son hitchhiking on the side of the road, and they stop to kind of confront him. And he apologizes and kind of explains himself that, he was threatened by his father and he's running away because he was going to beat him up and all this stuff. And they invite him to give him a ride.
After she basically
beats him up a bit.
Down with him and spots the gun in his bag. I think that she catches a glimpse of it when he falls in the mud there. And
also what looks like comic books.
Oh, definitely.
Which later in a few pages you find out he is a comic book fan.
Yeah.
Which are outlawed in this world, by the way. If you didn't read
that would definitely considered to be verboten.
Then a police officer shows up and kind of confronts them, who is then distracted by what if you watched our last show on the Comic Core, you would know I did a little rant about this. But very cool panel. It's a Gundam.
Yeah.
The rant I said was that people thought that silhouette at the end of the last issue was a Shogun Warrior. I thought it was a Gundam. People spec'd on the Shogun Warrior books for some reason. I mean, even if it was a Shogun Warrior, who cares? Like, is that really going to drive the spec up? But it's a Gundam, so sorry for all of you guys who spent too much money on that. But you find out pretty quickly that this Gundam is an illusion made by not Doctor Strange, unfortunately, who the little girl calls him, but Dr. Black with a Q.
With a Q, I love it. And he even says it. It's with a Q.
Yeah, it's with a Q. Who is part of a group called the Paybacks, which is an actual comic.
So I was curious about the connectivity, publishing backstory for some projects. Like, are they just open source kind of stuff, or are they under the Image umbrella or something?
So that I don't know if Image got the rights to this book because they do kind of plug the omnibus. The only thing I can think is that it's just owned by the creators, and they reached out and got the permission from the creators so that they could advertise for the hardcover collection or whatever it is.
Gotcha.
Because yes, the Paybacks was a Dark Horse property, and I don't know. I'm sure Mike Allred owns Madman, but
yeah, I mean that one was like I don't know if Image published.
I think Image did a series at some point, but it's been mostly Dark Horse, I think. Or certainly originally, totally. It was in like some. I have the first appearance. And there was a Tundra series for a while. The Tundra isn't even in business anymore.
It looks like Bearded's saying that Cates was the writer on Paybacks.
Oh, is it?
Which I had never heard of before. So there you go.
There you go. So he's probably just plugging his own thing. Makes sense.
Which is now a little bit funnier when he plugs that.
Yeah. So they pull up in a van, and they're kind of hesitant to get in the van. Dr. Black magics them away to this palace where they kind of introduce the Paybacks and say, oh, you're here with the girl. And then a superhero in silhouette walks out and he says, is that a drawing of me? And you see the little drawing of Superman, presumably Superman, that the girl did in the first issue. And he says, hey, would you look at that? Isn't that swell? And then it's
not Superman.
No, it's Madman, who has with a towel. He says, never really been much of a fan of, really been much for capes, though.
Yeah, because the way he's holding the towel in the shadow, it looks a little like a cape.
Yeah, like a cape. And he's got like a lightning bolt on his chest, which like a kid could see as being an S, maybe. So I thought that was a really clever reveal. But my point.
Paybacks by Donny Cates.
Yeah. And then there's a huge 2-page ad for like Mike Allred related stuff. So I'm sure, again,
like a deal made.
But I remember when we reviewed the first issue, one of the things we said was, well, this is not going to really pay off because you're not really going to be able to put all these different heroes and stuff in this world because of rights issues. And yeah, we're probably never going to see a full Batman fighting whatever in the thing, but like we've seen now references to a lot of stuff. In this issue alone, we have Watchmen, Madmen, and the Paybacks. In the last issue, we had a lot of clearly different heroes in the jail cells, including Spawn and Batman and the Thing. And so it's interesting how they're kind of like able to pick out even these more obscure characters, which honestly, for me as a pretentious jerk, I find it way more interesting than if it were just Superman.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think there's more freedom and a chance for more with something like a Mad Men than there is with Superman, because it's the Marvel Chip Zdarsky thing, right? Where he said, I pitched them on this Daredevil thing, and they're like, yeah, sure, whatever you want. The second he asked to have Spider-Man guest, they're like, whoa.
Yeah.
We don't play around with that guy.
Yeah.
Like, that guy's golden. Like, we're play soft with that guy. And I think as a result, obviously they can get a little more leeway with someone like Mike Allred than they could with DC.
Yeah, I'll never forget this story. Bill Hader from SNL, he, a number of years back, wrote a Spider-Man one-shot. It was called The Short Halloween. If you don't have it, if you haven't read it, I would definitely recommend searching around in sale bins and stuff for it. It's an amusing read. But he was on some talk show or something, and they asked him about, oh, we heard that you just wrote a Spider-Man book. How was that like? And he told this very brief story that I might be totally wrong about this whole thing, but this is how I remember it, is that they basically said to him, we love the script, only one note, Spider-Man is hyphenated. And I just thought that was a very funny note to give, because at that point, that's an editor's job just to fix that. But for them to feel the need to be like, oh, by the way, Spider-Man is hyphenated. I think that goes to your point of like, Spider-Man's our guy.
Right.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah. So, that obviously lends itself to the fact that they can play a little more freely with their own properties or lesser appreciated ones, right?
Gore says, after seeing Mad Men on the comic, I thought about actually reading the series, but in the end, I'd rather reread Mad Men. I mean, that's not a bad choice.
There you
go.
So what would you score this issue then out of 10? What would you score this one?
I mean, just for like pure amusement, it was like a high 8 for me. Like, it's still just like, it is what it is. It's not like the next great thing, I don't think, but I had a lot of fun with it, especially after reading that Wonder Woman, which I was kind of met on, and the Batman, which just rubbed me the wrong way. Sure. I read this third and I was like, oh, okay, that was a fun time.
by proxy.
Yeah. It's like TJ saying he likes the show better because he watches the other show before it. It's like when you put things side by side, it's like really kind of puts things in perspective.
It's certainly more palatable. I'd probably say 8 out of 10 maybe on this one, something like that. I think I'm still not fully invested in this, and so there are definitely times when I feel like, because I'm out of the loop on things like the Paybacks or Mad Men, like that doesn't hit a nostalgia button for me.
Right.
It doesn't. It's not the endorphin rush that it might be for other fans.
Yeah, I mean, like if they put Gru the Wanderer or like someone like that in the next issue, I'll be like, okay, this book is just like kind of not for me specifically, but like the kind of comic fan that I am, like the kind of like jerky comic fan who likes weird stuff. Who read a lot of Gru when I was a kid,
Gru the Wanderer is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like if it had been Gru instead of Madman, I probably would have been laughing and this probably would have gotten a higher grade. But it was Madman, and I've never read Madman. I've just seen, I think I've seen like Free Comic Book Day versions. That's about all I've seen.
Shout out to Sergio Aragonés.
Yeah, I got to find some of those in the dollar bins just to show my girls.
Yeah, they're real funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that's about it. You pick up anything else cool that you wanted to talk about briefly?
I mean, I do. I've been shouting him out everywhere, but David Pepose.
Yeah,
he's an awesome guy. I really enjoyed his Spencer and Locke comic book, and his new Aftershock book dropped today. Issue number 1 of Scout's Honor. And I'm sorry to say I have not finished it, so I can't give it the full glowing review I wanted to, but I read about 2/3 of it, and I'm totally into it. I'm really enjoying it. So I have no doubt it'll finish. This first issue will finish strong, and this will become a regular on the pull list each month when this issue 2 drops or whatever. So that definitely made the list.
About this silly spec book. Cool cover. Really average read. Like it didn't really do anything for me.
I mean, I'm honestly serious. Like, what's the spec on it? What's the
Because it's a Star Wars book that has a first appearance in it.
okay?
And everyone's like,
who's the first? Is it somebody that's gonna?
Some Jedi girl. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, she's like the main character as far as I know. She's.
Then I like it even less now.
She's the main girl as far as I know. I don't recognize her from anything. Like I'm a fairly big Star Wars fan. You know,
Yeah.
I don't read like all the comics and all the books, but like I feel like I know the lore well enough that I would have known the character. Sure. But you know, everyone's just like freaking out about. I mean, Kanan 6 is like $200 now.
That book is good now, yeah.
And that came out only a couple of years ago, so people are just like going crazy for anything Star Wars because if it shows up in The Mandalorian or one of the 10 other shows Disney's doing, they think it's going to put their kids through college.
Hey, Jeff Schultz, good to see you, man.
Jeff Schultz, what's up?
I wanted to show this Venom issue 32 had a cool splash page that I thought was bitchin', which is like the death of Eddie Brock when he lands on the car and then like his body goes underwater or something.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's really cool.
That is the splash page of the week for me. Like that is freaking cool. The underwater bit looks so cool. This was a good issue. Slow. It wasn't like I feel like the King in Black issues are huge game changers, and then the Venom issues are sort of slow it down a little bit and get you more backstory stuff. And I'm okay with that format because it means it's like the main story and the tie-in in some ways. But I enjoyed that. Boom, there it is. Sorry, wrong direction. I haven't pointed the wrong way in a long time.
Well, it's been a day, so you know I give you.
And then the last one that I read and really haven't been enjoying was this Eternals #1. I know that everybody crapped on, hey, there's 40 covers or whatever. But I was like, it's Isad Ribic art, which I'm never going to frown on that. And it's Kieran Gillen writing. Like I was down for both of those things. So I've never read an Eternals comic. I have no clue what any of this stuff is beyond just like, that looks cool.
Neil Gaiman wrote an Eternals miniseries back in the.
They mention it in here. I think there was an ad for like an Omni or something. Yeah,
it's worth tracking down. It was a good story. They
have an ad for that. So I don't know who any of these characters are. I've never read any of it, but I know that Isad Ribic can draw the daylights out of stuff.
For sure.
And I know Kieran Gillen tells a good yarn. So I was like, let's just roll with this. And I enjoyed it enough to grab this next issue. Do we want to spoil it at all, or?
I don't care. I personally am not going to read it. I'm protesting it.
So you got Thanos showing up. Villain reveal, last page.
Oh, well, even more of a good reason I didn't buy it because I would have been real pissed at that.
Yeah, and then he's the cover of issue 2. So boom, there you go. So if you're a Thanos fan,
he's back, baby.
Gonna be a big part of this story. It looks like. So be ready for that. But yeah, Kieran Gillen, I'm all in. Everything else I haven't read yet, but I did grab the Scotty Young Valkyries cover. So because it's Scotty. So there you go. That's my whole. I showed you the Omni. So yeah.
I don't remember if I said hello to Pope Cerebus the First. Welcome. And Vincent McLean, the Comic Machine. What's going on? Got here just in time for us to say goodbye. Unfortunately.
Could have been that. Maybe that's a good thing.
What do you got coming up though?
Tomorrow's Thursday. I got my edited video pull list dropping tomorrow at 6:45 Eastern. Part of that triple threat with Rod the Rican at 6:30, and then I'm 6:45, and then Old Wolf is at 7. Those are Eastern times. Yeah, got it. And then, I got
everyone's popping into the chat right now. What's up, Kachung? Welcome. Sorry,
must have ended or something.
Yeah. Something more interesting, probably Reggie's stream or something.
I know I've got other stuff coming up, but I'm just blanking on it right now. So I'm sorry. Oh, I got the big. I got another episode of Comic Gories coming on Monday.
Nice. Yes.
So be ready for that. It's 8:30 Eastern.
Very cool. I got D&D on Sunday after the big twist reveal after last week's episode. Get to see what happens moving forward. Villain reveal, yeah. Last page villain reveal. I've done it to myself, damn it.
You are the evil that you hate.
Yeah, well, we tend to
your anger.
We tend to end up being our fathers, right?
Ouch.
So yeah, other than that, I'll be back here. Well, not here on John's channel next week for TBD book.
Yep. I'm trying to remember. Next week I have like only like 4 books on my pull list, but
it's not reassuring.
Not a lot of winners there. But we could go back and do that if you want to read Scout's Honor. If you grab a copy, we could do that.
Yeah, I'll try to track one down.
Yeah.
As a backup.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I hope everyone is staying safe. And don't storm the Capitol building. Have a good night, everyone, and never turn your back on the ocean. Goodbye.